Jussie Smollette, the court is now telling Jussie Smollette's attorneys and the state to release information about the case. Now, what happened is, if you back up, Jussie Smollette tried to claim that he was beat up by some individuals with Trump hats, and apparently the the district attorney, and this is in the Chicago, Illinois area, said, no, we're not going to prosecute. There's a question about whether or not there was a little bit of, don't prosecute this guy. And we're going to say this name, but Michelle Obama's friends back there, we're not saying she did anything or had any influence, but so they're questioning all these issues. And so what happens is they go into the court and say, you know what, we're not going to prosecute this case because they found out he did lie and it was a setup, and we're not going to prosecute it. And by the way, we're going to seal the record. And the court agreed to that. And who's bringing this lawsuit or bringing this this suit basically to open the records is the media.
The media wants to get to it.
Hollywood Reporter and stuff.
Exactly. And so the media filed a motion to unseal the record, and the court said, this is something that, to me, I'm going to have to take some time and really think about it, because I have to weigh the interest of the public and the media's rights versus Mr. Smollette's rights.
Yeah, no, the interesting thing is, on this issue is, what did they do? Because they're saying they want privacy for Mr. Smollette, right?
Right.
This is a privacy. But what did Mr. Smollette do?
He made it public.
He went out and made the whole thing public. His attorneys and everybody went out and went public. Not only he did, but his attorneys. And so the judge scratches his head and goes, so you want this private. Now I'm gonna try to balance whether or not the First Amendment rights for the freedom of the press and the press to get that, or this person's privacy. And I think the judge nailed it when he said, look at your actions.
Well, Todd, Fred, and Denise, the thing is, this is exactly why we have a First Amendment, so government cannot operate in the shadows. And it's why news agencies want it. So government can't play little special favors and games. If this was such a good thing, it would have all been done in the open and everybody would know what was going on. And obviously somebody's embarrassed or ashamed or doesn't want the word to get out. And I have to tell you, I applaud these media organizations, Todd, that want to make this happen.
I agree with you, Cal, there. Now, I want to make sure that we understand what they are seeking. People already have the police reports. That's already been made public. That came out. What they're seeking is the court's file. When a court goes to the lengths to seal something, it's like saying a huge red flag, look here, look here, look
exactly.
here. But what are you typically going to find in a court file? I mean, you're not going to find typically any notes on plea negotiations. I've been a prosecutor. I was a prosecutor for 10 years, been a criminal defense attorney for 5. I have never once filed copies of my plea negotiations with the court. You're going to find in the court file minutes of the court proceedings. You're going to find legal pleadings that have been filed by both sides and filed with the clerk of the court. You're going to find a plea form if somebody pled. If nobody pled, then you won't find there. You'll find the complaint. It's these type of documents.
Sentencing recommendations.
If there is a sentencing recommendation, a report on sentencing recommendations, I'll be curious to see what is in there, because most of the time it's innocuous and nobody would really have something. So if the court went to the lengths to seal it, it tells me there's something else in there that you wouldn't typically find in a court file.
And sealing the record. Remember, criminal matters are public record.
Yes.
That means the public has a right to know what's in that each and every file. And for the court to actually seal the public record, that is a very unusual and very infrequent event.
Yeah, the issue here is that the Smollette team argues, well, it was the media that gave substantial public attention to this. Well, by the way, there are certain event times where it needs to be sealed. Children, when children are involved,
yes,
or
sure.
An individual that has been a serious crime like rape or something like that.
Victim of a sexual assault.
The identities of those individuals. So that's a different story. But here, this is just a normal individual, other than he is a movie star, that went out there and talked all about it to himself, and so did his lawyers. So you open it up, Judge. You're right.
And I think the biggest problem here are the conflicting statements between the Smolette team and what Smolette is saying people can infer from the dismissal versus what the prosecutors are saying. Smolette, upon the dismissal, has gone out and said, I told you I never did anything. The truth prevails. I got a dismissal because I didn't do anything wrong. But the prosecution has said, yeah, we dismissed it. We're not saying he didn't do anything wrong. We dismissed it because we said what we would be seeking in terms of punishment, he already did. So it's not like if we went through a full prosecution, we'd get anything more than we already would have gotten. He paid the fine. He did the community service. That's different.
Let me quote the judge. The judge says, his actions are not the actions of a person seeking to maintain his privacy or simply be let alone. Quote, while the court appreciates the defendant was in the public eye before the events that precipitated this case, it was not necessary for him to address this so publicly and to do such to such an extent. There it is, Your Honor. That's exactly right. I think he put himself out there. If they would have shut up, there might have been an issue, but the fact that they went out there and talked about it. So we're going to find out later on what is in the file and what was in the court docket, and this is going to be very interesting for us to talk about at a later date. So we'll be back. Thank you for